Hello, everyone. It's Ashwin Rao. In today's video conversation, I speak with Shellvedge, one of the internet's most well regarded bloggers in foot care and footwear, about Pacific Northwest boots. Now, Pacific Northwest boots are boots made in the Pacific Northwest, but really are well regarded boots that were largely targeting people in the workwear community. But I've got curious about these boots partly because of how well built, if not overbuilt, they are. And Shellvedge and I get into the details of these boots, the form, the fit, and the function as I've started to delve in further. So let's go ahead and move forward, and I hope you enjoy the conversation.
And so I just got my first pair of whites, and I got a second pair just a couple days ago that I am restoring right now. So working on it.
Wow. So that is, I was say it's definitely pretty. It's pretty awesome. I mean, like it's like completely different than not like most of the stuff, but like it's just like a completely different kind of like realm of
Yeah,
the
yeah.
boot world, right?
I felt like it was. I kind of, we've joked around about different styles and things over the years, but from my standpoint, whereas honestly, the whole conversation around Alden and how boots are built kind of got me thinking a little bit about what it means to be built and like how what is quality. And I think historically I've looked at the little details and the synthesis of the little details, like, oh, what's the stitch density, what's the shape of the last, what's the different kind of aesthetics, what type of leather is used. But these boots are really built with the sole intent of lasting forever and being comfortable. And they may take a while to break in and whatnot, but the intent of these work boots is to serve a purpose for the person who is investing a lot of money to own
Yeah.
essentially one pair of boots that they have to wear for a few years, and then potentially get resold and wear for a few more years. And so I wanted to try that out because it is where the heritage boot scene kind of emerged from. It's sort of almost like a derivation or I don't want to say perversion, but it's sort of taking that
Yeah.
idea and made it fashion, or style, so to speak. And the truth of the matter is, White's boots and Nick's and Frank's and JK and to a lesser degree Viberg, which is I really think a Canadian Southwest, Pacific Southwest of Canada boots rather than really Pac Northwest boots. And White's is actually doing some good stuff. White's and Nick's are doing some good stuff to kind of up their game, from what I can tell, in terms of crossing over into that style or at realm, but they still kind of have that heritage, that DNA of a work boot, which I wanted to try.
Yeah. So that's like really interesting. And actually, so I don't know. This is whites, right? So
Yeah,
which boot
I
is
picked
it?
up a I picked up a 350 cruiser model, which is a lace to toe kind of a monkey boot, lace to toe model. The version that I got actually is done in
Like this?
collaboration with, yeah, that's the one right there. Mine is in a Toscanello horsehide leather. It's got that same kind of curved Cuban heel, that aggressive Cuban heel. They have a very different kind of hand sewn, stitch down construction. They do this like folded over thing with their leather on the outside where this outsole stitching is to protect and provide more waterproofing. The one that I have actually has a little lineman's patch on it to kind of protect people on the inside medial aspect of their foot if they're using the shoe for
Word.
purposes such as getting up on a pole and climbing around and having
Dancing.
a lot of friction. You can go crazy with these things. Like some of the makers offer what do they offer? Like a steel toe, like a steel reinforced toe. So if you
Yeah.
drop crap on your foot, you're not going to smash your toes. This one does not have that. It actually has unstructured toe, which should allow. The reason I chose that actually has nothing to do with form or function. It has to do with the fact that in case I had an issue with fit, I knew that
Yeah.
unstructured
Yeah.
toe
Yeah.
box was going to give me more flexibility. So, bottom line is, I wanted to try these guys out, and I was really interested in trying out that 55 last because it is somewhat ubiquitous to the Pacific Northwest boot making scene. Almost everybody has some version of this quote 55 last, which is uh, um, designed to provide a lot of arch support. And you could see the style there. They're a lot more rugged, round toed, chonk monster, like big thick soles. They have a very purposeful aesthetic that's meant for kind of that outdoor lifestyle. Pre-owned. Both of them I got were pre-owned. One of the 350 Cruiser model I got was actually recently released, like in December, by Free Note Cloth in conjunction with Whites, which is so you're seeing that bridging of style and workwear that these companies are either being forced to do or are finding marketably interesting in terms of their marketability. And so again, didn't have a structured toe box, so allowed for fit, but it has that same 55 last, commando sole, Toscanello horsehide, so pretty rugged leather that should wear well. I'm just curious about it, and I wanted to give it a try. And I got it for half the price of new. I saw it still on their site, Free Note Cloth site, for like around $700 or $800 or something like that, and I got it for like
Wow.
under half that. So worn twice. So if you're smart, you can get a good deal. The other pair I got was a pair of what are called pole climbers, which are short. They're a low top, kind of lace to toe style. And that's another model that's similar, but it's just a low version of it. Comes with a Vibram Christie sole, but the pair I got was pretty worn out in the sole, but the upper was pretty good. And so I'm going to have my cobbler here in Seattle swap out the soles for a similar, it's called a Vibram 2021 sole, which is kind of a wedge sole with a little scalloped arch in it. And so, yeah, and I got that one for under 200, around $200. And so bottom line is I paid less than the price of one boot for two pairs, one of which was essentially new and the other which will look new once I'm done with it. And so being able to try these brands out when you're essentially funding your own hobby is something that is appealing when you can go get these boots on the used market. People who are trading them and moving them are typically people like me or us who are into the hobby of collecting or trying out shoes. They're not the people who are necessarily using them for workwear, because they're committing a lot more of their time and resources to actually like putting these boots on and working in them every day. So it's a different vibe, but I'm looking forward to it.
It'll be
Totally different vibe.
Yeah.
Totally a different approach to like footwear than anything I've tried, but still very, very well built. Obviously a completely different approach to footwear than say some of the high-end dress wear that I enjoy, similar to some of the Indonesian makers, but built at a level that's required for work. And I'm not sure that taking a pair of Onderhoed Renav goods or something like that, those are great boots from a stylistic standpoint, but I'm not sure that they would survive like a heavy, rugged, work schedule, which is fine. That was never my intent, but I still just kind of wanted to get a sense for what that feels like on the foot. So they're gonna take a little journey with me, and I'll figure out if I like them or not pretty quick, I think. Yeah, you need to get the sizing right, because if the sizing's not right, it could make your whole experience terrible, and it can be the difference between a shoe that feels or a boot that feels comfortable on your feet that you feel like you can take everywhere, or a boot that just feels like a mismatch for you. And so I did a bunch of research. I asked a bunch of people who are in the community about fit and like how to fit properly, and looking at like heel to ball, heel to toe, all these different things. I have reasonable arches, what does a instep, mid-step, and all of these different things kind of going into it. And just making sure I didn't, and I chose the models that I chose because I've heard that the Pacific Northwest lasts are a little bit more narrow. And so they don't have a very spacious toe box unless you size up to an E width. And so the unstructured toe on that 350 Cruiser model will allow me to have a little bit more flexibility in fit, because I'll be also dealing with this really aggressive arch. And I've generally liked arch support. I've tended to put insoles in some of my boots when they feel a little too spacious. If there's too much space on the instep, then I'll slide a insole into that. Like I did that with the Crew Nonpareil boots that you sent me, that still felt a little spacious up top. And so needless to say, that fixed any issue. So now that boot is very comfortable for me. But that insole that I put in there has a lot of arch support in it. And so this Whites already has that built in. There's no way I would put any further arch support in there. But the arch support is essentially a moldable leather with a steel shank in there. So it's going to be there's going to be some parts that are fixed and some parts that, if I give this enough of a go, will start to mold to my foot. And I'll be curious how it plays out. Like, am I going to be able to like deal with it? Because from everything I've heard, people, who are more in our side of the things, if they just try it out, it may feel uncomfortable, and it takes a month or two to break in and all this kind of stuff. And so I have a big enough rotation of boots and shoes that I don't, I'll have to kind of commit a little bit to it to actually see where it goes, and we'll find out.
I don't know. Like, do you think like have you tried them on? Like, is the arch support like
Yeah,
that protruding? Now, this is just
it's
my own like curiosity here, but
it is very different than any other boot that I've ever worn. I'll tell you that. And the heel on the boot is a little taller, and so your foot has this arch on it and this heel that feels built up. So my initial impression was that my feet were like in a pair of heels or something. Like it felt like they were sliding forward a
really,
little bit. And granted, I just tried them on, so I'm gonna try them on with sort of medium thickness socks and lace them up real good, and just kind of actually start to, I'll start to use them on some of the walks that I do around my neighborhood, and and do some hiking in some of the parks that I like to go to, and do some photography. And so I'll give you more feedback in a little bit. But that was my very first impression, was aggressive arch to the point where like you have to size down about a half from your Brannock or a full size from your like athletic shoes, because that arch kind of shortens your foot. And then the thing that I didn't expect was like how much the pitch of that heel ends up creating this feeling where you're like, whoa, I'm like, I kind of like, I feel like I'm sliding, my foot feels like it's sliding forward. So I have to lace up really well so it doesn't do that. And then everything feels better. So